Ashley Jones from Marketing Showcase here, and welcome to another session. This one's a great talk. We're going to be joined by Adam Oldfield, who's the CEO of Force 24, and he's going to be talking you through how to 12 times your marketing ROI. He's going to be bringing together all his different tips and tactics surrounding email marketing and automation, and managing your time best to make sure you get the biggest results from your upcoming campaigns. The session itself is about 30 minutes long, so make sure you've blocked out the time, you shut the door, the dog's not going to rush in, you haven't got kids running about screaming. You might do, but just try and keep them quiet whilst you listen to this one. And without further ado, we'll get underway. So Adam, would you like to join me?
Hi Ash.
Hey Adam, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Have you got all the family locked away so we can do this one nicely and enjoy your 12 times?
I'm in the office, so I've not got a problem with kids. I've just got a problem with other people running around. So let's see how we get on, eh?
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm looking forward to it. So I'll disappear and let you crack on. Thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about how you can 12x your marketing. Now, these are little tips that you can enact straight away, changing your perceptions about how you think and how you perceive what you're doing at the moment. And it's just drawing a few parallels. Let me turn this fan off. There we go. That noise is going to go. And it's just quick wins that you can get. So, okay. But before we get started on that, what I'm going to talk to you very quick about me and Force 24. This gives you a little bit of credibility. So I've been in the marketing industry for about 25 years now, something like that. And I'm the CEO and founder of Force 24. So I get the benefit of sitting on top of about 6,000 users, all UK marketeers, using our technology to drive them forward. So I get to look at what they're doing and I get to see whether they're making big strides forwards or whether they're perhaps not. So, and we also do this in our own marketing. So there's a lot of experience that we can bring that we see that perhaps other businesses don't have sight of. Great position for us to be sat in. So a little bit about Force 24, very, very quickly. We were founded in 2010. We're the fastest growing marketing automation platform in the UK at the moment. And that's largely because we give a fairly unique promise. And that is not only is the tech awesome and the fact that it's industry leading and we're not inventing things that are gimmicky, we're building things that marketers use. But more importantly, we give everybody free training and support for life dispensed on a 2-minute SLA. So that means that we're right by your side in the office as you're trying to build these automated campaigns, as you're trying to connect better to your customers. That's massive. It's huge. And it's been one of the big things that people have always said about us and why they join us and why they stay. So awesome, great stuff. Don't really want to talk about Force 24. I want to get into the meat of what we're talking about today. So let's talk about the challenge. Okay. And one of the reasons that I like to start with that, who we are, is the fact that this first point is really poignant. And that is the fact that all marketers are faced with a world of conflicting information, often supplied without evidence and with an agenda. And what that means is that I'm here today and I'm going to talk to you about, from my world, what's the most important things. But ultimately, I'm paid for and powered by a marketing automation platform. And whichever talk you go to, there's always going to be an agenda. And that's something that you guys need to learn how to, well, I'm sure you all know how to balance, but you've got to balance. So I try and keep it impartial and just try and sort of focus on the big issues that I'm seeing at the moment. But know that the world is full of advice. And as Baz Luhrmann said, we've got to be careful whose advice we buy, but also be patient with those prepared to dispense it. So let's go. The problem. The other thing that we've noticed is that marketers in the main are still doing what they did 10 years ago. Now that's crazy. Some of you have been in marketing a long time. Some of you are fairly new to the game. But in terms of email, we were still building emails and sending emails. Great, cool. And we were still using open rates and click rates to respond to understand how effective they were. Nothing really has changed that much in the last 10, 15 years in how marketeers in the main are perceiving that. Now, there are pockets of marketers that are particularly progressive, but in the main, that's part of the problem. And I'm going to challenge that and so show you why that might be a bit of a problem now moving forwards. So setting the scene, some important notes. if I am going to 12x, right, I need to drastically change the focus of where my effort sits today. So I need to develop a path of least resistance. And this is all about trying to move the shift of effort, okay? So a lot of marketeers, when we talk about email marketing, we say, what's the biggest challenge that you face with email marketing? They say things like, well, it's data segmentation. I've got to mess around with data. I've got to move this up. I've got to upload that spreadsheet there or whatever. That has to end, because really that is dead time. I say, if you're going to start data segmenting and it's not an automated process, you're killing your campaign, because you need that time going into the messaging, into the creativity. So I want you to look at ways in which you can spend no time on data segmentation. It's not because I don't think it's important, it's because I think it should be automated. And I think you should be able to create automated routines. And that's why people like Force 24 are here, is so that you never have to do this again. You set up rules, and those rules put people in and out of segments, and it's all automatic. It's really easy. The next thing is building email templates. Again, one of those things I often say in the live environment, put your hands up if you spend more than half an hour building an email template, and up goes most of the hands. Some people spend a couple of hours, 3 or 4 hours even, building an email template. My advice is you've got to get that down to 5 minutes. If you're spending 5 minutes building a campaign, I'll come on to why that is important in a moment. If you're spending, that's the right amount of time. Now, I'm not advocating slapdash, but what I am saying is you need to get formulas, you need to get approaches that work, so your message is just a conversion into that formula, rather than, okay, let's start from the beginning. Where are we going to go with this campaign? What are we going to... It all needs to end. We need to be very formulaic, and we iterate formulas on. If I'm going to do an email campaign, if I'm going to run a campaign, re-engage my audience or engage my audience, I also need a destination, a landing page. I can't be sending, I'm going to come on to this in a moment, I can't be sending traffic to, you know, well-built, well-educated campaigns that are sent to the right message, right person, right time, to a poor destination. I need to be able to harness the power of that traffic and make sure I'm getting value for the business. So that, in my world, says I've got to be able to build landing pages very quickly. And I set a guideline within the Force 24 marketing team of 15 minutes. Again, not advocating slapdash. I want you to spend all the time in the world in content. Content is key. Being engaging is key. It's so important. So I want you to build the content, write great words, and then just transfer them into your landing pages. Transfer those great pictures, those great words, and we move very, very, very quickly. So I'm all about commodifying your effort. That's really important to me. The next thing about being able to 12x is being able to measure. I'm going to come on to measuring at the end. And this is the point. If I said to you, what's the key metric of note in email marketing? You'd say open rate, click rate. No, it's not, because it's mostly lies. So I actually need to be able to know that I'm getting better. So let me put it like this. If I wanted to increase your open rate, all I need to do is remove some of the people that aren't opening your emails. And then all of a sudden your open rate goes up. But are you getting more business from that? Well, hopefully, actually, you may, because your deliverability profile improves. But the point is, I'm showing you it's a vanity metric. And as long as we understand it for what it is, we can use it, and it's a powerful tool. So being able to report is massive, and being able to measure the difference. I'll come on to that in just a moment. Now, final thing about setting the scene is the rule of 6. And the rule of 6 is the one I talk about in every one of my talks. I think it's so important. And what the rule of 6 basically says is, if you want to engage an audience and you've got a message you want to give them, you need to tell them about it 6 times. But I can't be boring. I can't just repeat what I'm saying. So what I need is a framework that enables me to frame any argument. And by argument, I don't mean you picking arguments with people. I mean a creative argument. Come to my webinar or something like that. Frame that in a templated way that means it's a really formulaic approach to building those 6 touches. So this is that. This is the rule of 6. And the rule of 6 says basically, if you want anybody to do something, you need to pull on the 6 levers of the human's emotions, where we've got an introduction. Now, I know it's not an emotion, but we need to tell them what we want them to do. So the first piece is you got to introduce what you want them to do. The second thing is social proof. We've all heard about social proof, and social proof is John down the road did this and he's now got faster broadband, or whatever it might be. Or business XYZ did this and they're now seeing this many leads, whatever it may be. Social proof is critical. People really latch onto that. Gain. What do you stand to gain by coming to my webinar, by buying this product, by doing whatever it might be? Fear. Fear is what happens if you miss out. Now, I've had people on webinars, I've had people on in face-to-face scenarios say, oh, but we don't like fear. We don't want to scare people. No, you're right, you don't. And that's why you need the balance of the human argument, because it comes in as a package. The problem with fear is it's actually a really powerful driver. The next one is logic, where we pull it all together and we display it succinctly with all the logic of why you should do this, which includes the fear, the gain, social proof, the introduction, everything. And then the final point is loss or urgency. Loss or urgency is, here's why you need to act now. This is now. So a webinar is really easy because you know what? The webinar's in 20 minutes. You need to do this now, else you're going to miss it. We don't have it on demand. So, you know, and the problem is loss and urgency is a negative driver. Fear is a negative driver. And unfortunately, as humans, we're hardwired to respond to those negativities. So negative drivers, and we more so than we are the gain. So we need them. But what sort of brand only pulls those levers? It'd be really boring and really nasty and negative. So we need the whole package of the human argument. Now, you guys do this every single day. You don't realize it, but you're doing it. If you ask the kids to tidy their bedroom, hey kids, will you go tidy your bedroom? Nothing. So you ask again, but you don't say exactly the same thing because you know it didn't work first time. You change it and you change it and you escalate. And that's essentially what we're doing here. But I'm giving you a framework that says that's how you escalate in marketing. So you can't just be negative. You can't shout at them. You can't tell them you take your PlayStation off them if you don't come to the webinar. You need to actually be a bit more structured in what you're doing. So this is how you do it. It's beautiful. Really, really simple. The next thing, the final thing before we get into the meat is be more Gordon. How many times have we all watched Kitchen Nightmares where we've seen Gordon Ramsay, the chef, placed the food onto that warming plate, just about to go to customer, and Gordon Ramsay says, whoa, that ain't good enough. That goes back. We as marketeers need to do that. We need to look at, are the things we're doing good enough for the customers we're about to serve? I talk about the comedian on stage usually. You imagine a comedian on stage going out and telling a joke that's subpar. Oh my goodness me, the dire death of 1,000 cuts. We need to have more pride in what we're doing and says, right, okay, this is the best work I've ever done every day. And I often say to the audience, who can put their hands up that this week they've done their best ever work? And usually nobody puts their hands up. Okay, sorry about that. This month, who's done their best work? Again, the odd hand goes up. As marketeers, every day, every week, every month, we're doing our best work. That's how it needs to be. And that's because we love it. We're passionate. We've taken out the boring stuff. We've commodified the stuff that hurts us and that makes us uncreative. And we focus on the really, really good stuff. So the chef isn't washing the dishes at the end of the day. Okay, so be more Gordon. We all need to be more Gordon. Let's move on. Step one. First thing we've got to do, if we're going to 12x, is we need to get have a clear objective. So I often find that marketeers are doing things without a clear objective. So it's Wednesday, we're doing our newsletter, we're sending it out. Okay, fine. What's your objective? And if you say, oh, my objective is to get my newsletter out, I'd say, no, that's not a clear objective. That's you doing a job. Okay. Let's focus on what we've got to do. So the business may be saying, oh, well, we've got a problem with this particular product set, or we've got a problem with this. Leads aren't as high as we want in this region, whatever. Your clear objective says, right, I'm going after them. Now, a newsletter or any other tactical piece like a webinar may be one of the tools that you use to facilitate that end goal, but the goal and the objective is that. I need to do that. So here's some examples. You know, the old school would be get more leads, sell more stuff. The new school would be increase base lead score in northern contacts. Educate lapsed customers about new products. Again, newsletters may be a component within there, but know why I'm doing it. That helps me laser beam in on my creative and make sure that what I'm showing you is in line with my objective. It's the just ask principle. Years ago, we ran a project with a charity, and the charity basically wanted to know. Sorry, it wasn't It was a company that was working with a charity, and they said, we will donate money to this charity if you tell us these things. So they did it, and they spent a load of money with the charity. Then they said, oh, let's just ask our customers to do what we want them to do, which is tell us what they want. We don't need the charity. Don't not give money to charity. We've got to give money to charity. But the point was the just ask principle was just as powerful as the just ask plus the incentive. So if we just know what we're asking our customers to do, then we can actually be really specific and get them to do it really easy. So once we understand our objective, we can laser beam in on that artwork, and it's really, really simple. Okay, next point. Number 2, step 2 is understand segmentation. Now, again, often in the physical live talks, I say, put your hands up if you've nailed segmentation, and just reflect. Do you think you've nailed segmentation? Maybe, maybe not. In the main, most people haven't, and I would say when I was at university, 20, God knows how many years ago, we were talking about segmentation then. And, all these decades on, people still haven't nailed it. Why? What's going on? And that's because we don't truly understand what segmentation is, and it's a constantly evolving feast. So let's have a look at it. In the old days, we had what we called, segmentation of yesterday would be, you got your butchers, your bakers, your candlestick makers, or your males, your females, your whatever. You've also got your males that live in Leeds, and you've got your males that are age whatever to whatever. That's all basic segmentation. It's all relatively straightforward, based on something in CRM that's telling me that that person is that person. Cool, awesome. But even if you've got that cracked, let's now move on to what segmentation today looks like. So segmentation today says, all right, you've got butchers tightly packed into nice, neat little segments. You've got butchers in the north, butchers in the south, butchers with 10 shops, butchers with 1 shop. Brilliant. You've done all that great stuff. But if we're not segmenting those segments further on levels of engagement, it's pointless. So marketeers tend to see it that you're either cold data, or your data, or you're somebody in the buying funnel. There's massive shades in the middle of gray that we need to start moving people along the journey. So if we think that it's good enough to send you an email saying, hey, just buy my stuff, it's not going to work. So what I've got to do is I've got to work out a series of steps that gets you from this cold data position to this in the buying funnels position. So, and this segmentation says, okay, I've got butchers that have never opened an email. I've got butchers that regularly open emails. I've got butchers that attend our webinars. I've got butchers that download our guides. I've got butchers that have spoken to the sales team. I've got and so on and so forth. And my job of this first set right here is to get them to open an email. And once they're opening emails, get them to download some content. Once they're downloading content, get them onto a webinar. Once they've had a webinar, get them into a sales conversation, so on, so on, so on. Now, we're not all selling to butchers, so that's up to you to figure out how you do it. But the point is, we say point A, point B, you got to get them there. And there's steps, not one leap. You're nobody, and all of a sudden you're a sales prospect. It's a big ask, really big ask. So breaking it down is really important. I'm now going to switch on to how we use that. Okay, so this is cool. So this is a pyramid, okay? And this says the majority of your customers are in this awareness phase. So to get you to open an email, to get you to download some content, to get you to come to a webinar, I basically have to give you stuff. And this awareness tier is all about content. I'm never selling. I can't sell. People don't want to buy. All I'm doing is saying, hey, this is cool. Have a look. Hey, do you want this? This is awesome. You'll find this really useful. Your value comes through their value. There aren't many times in life where that's not true. So I know I'm doing this talk right now because our value as Force 24 comes from giving you value. So at the bottom of our funnel, at the bottom of our pyramid, the lowest engaged contacts, we've got our awareness comms, which is just, here, have this, come to our webinar, this is awesome. The next thing is the commercial phase. So a lot of people ran webinars throughout COVID, and COVID was a great time for us to stretch our legs in digital means. And some of them stayed, some of them have gone. But a lot of people found it very difficult, easy to get bums on seats for webinars, but very difficult to commercialize those conversations. Okay, so here's why. So the awareness phase at the very bottom of the pyramid is come to our webinar. Commercial phase is cool. You've spoken to me now. Right, you understand what we're about. Commercial is now, let's switch it up and let's start talking about how we get you to figure out how much this is going to cost, how much you're going to save, how this is going to improve your ROI, how whatever unique strategic benefits that your product or business gives. It's getting that commercial phase is encouraging them now to reach out and become a lead. Okay. Human phase at the top is where only the best get to, only the hottest that have not yet reached out get into that human phase. And this works mostly in B2B, but there's obviously lots of different B2C contexts that this works as well. When do we get the humans involved? The sales team, the consultants, the whatever it may be. And this is the very top of the pyramid. And those pyramids actually may be shaped like that, maybe shaped like that, lots of different ways of doing it. And it's down to you in your business. Say, who is the hottest? In my 10,000 people I'm talking to, there's 5 that I'd really, really want to escalate into the sales team. Right? What do they look like? Let's set a rule that when people look like that level of engagement, and we use lead scoring to figure that out, that they go into a human. Let's, when they've reached through that threshold from awareness, what is it that we move them into commercial? Is it because they've attended a webinar? Is it because they've downloaded a guide? Or is it because we've hit a certain lead score? If you're not using lead score, guys, come and see us. You need to be doing this straight away. It was probably the single biggest thing that generated more impact in the Force 24 business than anything else. So that's how we use segmentation. Butchers, bakers, candlestick makers, yeah. Plus the levels of engagement, understand point A, point B, and how we get them there unique to that particular industry or demographic or whatever it is. Sounds like a lot of work, doesn't it? Well, it is if you're not automating it. And it is if you're not commodifying your artwork and everything that we spoke about just a moment ago. So build great content. Step 3, build great content. This is really important for me. So quite often marketeers believe that actually content is secondary. Nobody believes that, surely. But actually, when we look at our day, when we look at the amount of effort that we put into our content, it actually is secondary. But yet we all agree it's so important. When we think of our personal lives, content is your personality. It's who you are, what you believe in. It's everything. So your friends like you for all of these things, right? So it's the effort you put in on birthdays. It's the effort you put in at dinner parties. It's all of these things. It's the fun that you bring to the party. Now, as marketeers, that's exactly the same. So content is our way of showing our brand personality, and it's aligning them to us. Now, in the old school, what we had is we'd have group of prospects and we'd send them an email, send them to a blog or something like that. Now what we're doing is we're saying, look, be more content centric. So on the screen, you just below, you've got the prospect data at the top, the email, and the blog websites. That's the old way of doing it. So you've got all your customers, your prospects, here's an email, go and have some content, off you go. And what we're saying now is that doesn't really give you enough time to build something worth having. So we're saying, okay, change it up. The way that you should be operating is it's all centered around that far left content, PDF, webinar, whatever. So on the left, you've got that on the series of boxes below, content PDF on the left. To the right of that, you've got the gated landing page or the gated asset. And the gated asset says, look, if you want to come through there to get that good stuff, you've got to fill your details in, or you've got to tell us something, or whatever. And that then powers your prospect data. So you're then using social media, you're using paid, and you're using email and direct to promote that wonderful, wonderful content which you've spent time on. And you're using the 6 touches of the human argument from the rule of 6 to promote that to your base. That's giving them direct access to the PDF, but you're also milking it on social, you're milking it on paid, you're doing whatever you can to promote this great content. So switching the focus to being, oh, this is a white paper we've done to send out to some of our email customers. No, nobody does that. We know that we do it when we do this, we talk about it a couple of times on social media. But if we build that content, we truly stand behind it. So should our employees on social. So should our brand social media, and our advocates and partners be sharing that content because it's bloody good and it's really important. So what we're saying is invest heavily in quality content and milk it. Build a program around that content and milk it. Platforms like ours give you the ability to store that content, build the landing pages, build the emails, capture the prospect data, push it out on social, all that sort of stuff. Great. But if we're not doing that, we can never give enough time and effort to our content to make it valuable to the people, because all we're doing is we're just milking our base, constantly milking our base and sending them to a blog perhaps or something. People read blogs, but they don't convert on blogs. I'll talk about that in a minute, I think. Next thing is email content and design. So, you know, I was saying you got 5 minutes to build an email. And the important thing about email is, yeah, that's right. You've only got 5 minutes because email is the hook and not the full meal. Content must be concise. Microsoft, who own the world, or certainly the email world anyway, they recommend that any email that you're producing should be no more than 10 words, one button. And they don't discriminate B2B, B2C, newsletters, whatever. It's 10 words, one button. Now, I can't do it. I just can't do it. But I've got to know where I sit on the scale. Am I at 1,000 words on an email, or am I at 26? You know, and that's where we've got to be looking at these things. So I've got to slim it down. So when I see people saying, well, we build newsletters and we send them out once a month. Oh, that's interesting. Great. Do you send your Twitter posts or your LinkedIn posts out on that same schedule? You hold it all back till once a month and then you send it? No, we do it every day. Okay, it's interesting. So why is email being batched up and like, oh, well, we don't want to annoy our customers? Why are you saying it if you think it's going to annoy your customers? Here's another fact. Try this. Who here, out of you guys at home, can remember a single email they received yesterday? Just one single email they received yesterday. A commercial email, not one from a friend. Most people can't. That's because email has got a recall of about 8 hours, unless you love it. Unless there was something about that was totally personalized, totally targeted, and then you'll remember it. And you might remember that for maybe a couple of days, but not much beyond that. So when people say, oh, we'll piss our customers off, that tends to be down to the fact that what you're saying to them hasn't gone through your value sense check and is a little bit bloated. I should be alerting you of cool stuff that's going on. Don't stand for second best. Don't be boring. Find your winning formula and stick to it. It means build a layout and just stick to it. Put all your effort in the words, in the images, in the content, not designing emails. Single column creative. It used to be called mobile first. It's just how you build emails now. It's not mobile first. It's just good layout. And so what we did was we said, okay, well, what does that look like for somebody? If you're going to do it, what does it actually look like? Well, it looks like this. So this is an email framework, and the email framework is designed. So in the old days, we had AIDA, and AIDA was attention, interest, desire, action. And we know we can't necessarily do that now on email. It doesn't work. So we said, well, what is it now for email? And we've come up with this. We said it's attention, interest, action, desire / trampoline, interest, action. So you can't do every email using that formula. You can't. But it's something that you can base it on, and you can see the 10 words, one button. Now, we haven't quite nailed 10 words. I know that. It's more like 1, 2, 3, 4 words and 2 little paragraphs, but know where you are on the scale. Now, who puts the images at the top of their email? No, don't do it. Put it below. That is to set desire, and it's a trampoline. And what a trampoline does is it bounces you back up into the content. So it should be there to set desire, but if you can't, stick it, get it so that it bounces you back up. But they used to say, well, they still do say, a picture tells 1,000 words. Yeah, you know what I'm going. Picture says 1,000 words or whatever. Not in email, because actually my words need to be rationalized to 10 pieces of solid gold. And you know, Microsoft's point about not differentiating between B2B, B2C is to say it's all just humans at the end of the inbox. You know, just because I'm in a B2B environment doesn't mean I've got more attention. It doesn't mean I think differently. I'm just a bloke at the end of the day that likes a pint, likes to play with the kids, all this kind of stuff. That's just who I am. So whether I'm a B2B context or a B2C context, it's the same people. So understand that 10 words, one button is just common for all. And if you are going beyond that, you've got to have a really, really good reason why. So find your secret formula and stick to it. Here's an example of that. We go into the supermarket and we don't see the supermarket. We see the stuff on the shelves. We see the banners. We see the veg. We see the cool stuff. That's what they sell. You take all of that out and you imagine a supermarket with nothing in it. It'd just almost be invisible. It'd just be a white mesh of trays. That's what your email templates need to be. That's where you need to get. And you can see here how we sort of iterated that similar sort of message along. Nobody cares. Nobody says, oh my God, they've used the same creative again. Oh my God, doing it again. But it gives you the ability to benchmark what you're doing. Is this a good layout or is this a bad layout? Let's try changing it and let's see if we can optimize. But anywhere with your split testing, I don't like it because there's nowhere near enough data to make it meaningful. You've got to iteratively test, which is where you do things over a period of time. And actually, as you can see here, we're trialing does that little bit in the middle, which is the testimonial work, and how many works, and what should we be saying about it? Okay, and that's how you do it. And it's not one email, we're sending it out over a period of time. Okay, moving on. So we're going to commodify the template. We're going to build a standard template. We're going to work smarter, not harder. We're going to be more Gordon. And the squint test. The squint test, sit back in your chair, look at the email. Does the message pop? If it pops and you know exactly what it wants to say, what you want to do when you see that email, nailed it. If it doesn't, start again. Okay, step 4, be more personal. Marketeers have to go way beyond insert first name here. Personalization is right message, right person, right time. That's what it's all about. So marketeers need to get to an understanding that the right message sent to the right person at the wrong time is the wrong message. The right person, the wrong message, the right time is the wrong message. It's always it needs all 3 components there to actually start to sing. So we need to go beyond just the normal hi, insert first name, because if anybody did remember an email from yesterday, and I said to you, did it have your name in it? You'd say, well, actually, I can't remember whether it had my name in it, but it had loads of products that I wanted, or it had something that was really relevant to me. That's what you remembered, not whether your first name was in it. So first name is, personalization, but it's all the things together. So cadence is important to that. So cadence versus spamming. Spamming is a relative term. You don't spam. Nobody on this webinar spams. What they do is they send out a cadence that may be too frequently or too regularly for some of the audience, which means that they perceive it as spam. Now, if I've got my segmentation tight enough and I know where you are, I can build a cadence or a frequency of communications, which Microsoft believe is 3 times a week for any contact, B2B, B2C. 3 times a week is optimum for those that are engaged. If they haven't engaged within 14 days, delete them from your database. That's slightly too aggressive for my mind, but the point is that Microsoft is saying talk more to those that are hot and take out those that are cold. So cadence means I'm talking regularly to people that are interested. Right time. Attitudinal data. Now, what that is the web tracking data. The web tracking data is when you click an email, when they come from a paid ad, when they've been to your website, whatever, what did they do? Now, if you're not stitching that data next to a contact's profile, you've no idea what they're interested in right now. And all you've got is that old CRM data telling you he's a butcher that's in Rotherham. Actually, you want to know he's not just a butcher that's in Rotherham. He's been looking at this machine, this machine, this machine, and this machine. He's then done that, which now means that you think he's buying a new shop. Right. Okay. That data is critical because now that's where we can start to do cool things on email to talk to people about. They did that. Well, we should do that. It's the right message. So marketing is all about building those automated journeys that take into account what they're looking at, puts them in nice tight segments that you can then start massaging over time. Really interesting stuff. Email deliverability. This is a big one. So a lot of marketeers right now don't understand their role in email deliverability. Unfortunately, it's your job now. So Microsoft and Google own the world, as we know. If Google says jump from a search engine optimization point of view, everybody jumps. In an email deliverability world, they do the same, but nobody's jumping. Instead, what they're doing is they're just getting worse and worse and worse. But unfortunately, the iOS 15 update, now which 64% of all email addresses have access to an iPhone right now, means that when you send out an email, your open rates are through the roof. You're getting 30s, 40s. You've never been getting that before. It's all lies. Unfortunately, it's all lies. Unless you're tightly segmenting your database, sending out small, regular volumes to people that are engaged, you're not going to be getting this. Not real. So it's actually your job to try and get under the hood of that. So email deliverability right now is a big challenge. And actually, if you were to look at what Microsoft are delivering you, you've probably got an issue right now. If you're not listening to what they were saying, what I was saying, they were saying before, 14 days before, if they haven't opened it, delete them, 10 words, one button, you're going to probably be having a bit of an issue. So we can fix that by starting to say, okay, Google and Microsoft saying, look, don't make me do all your segmentation for you. You've got to do it, and we'll respect you when you do it. And that means that rather than sending out 100,000 emails that, you know, people that we've collected for years and years and years, and we've no idea whether they're still in the business or not, let's send out 2,000 emails focused on those that we know are good. And then we work out strategies to re-engage that other 98,000 over time. That's where we're going. But the most important thing for me is be engaging, because you can have the best deliverability in the world. If you're boring and you're not engaging your audience, it will soon slide, because that's what matters. If you're a famous person and you're a brilliant singer, singing brilliant songs, you're only a brilliant singer in the public eye, singing brilliant songs whilst you're doing that. As soon as you stop that, you fall from grace. And exactly the same happens with an email point of view. Whilst you're writing across the board, great. Then as soon as you stop being engaging, that content runs out, you have to do it again, but it needs to be just as good. And the pressure's on, guys. It's on. You've got to be engaging. Okay, campaign execution. So campaign execution is all about do this through automation. You can't run these journeys. You can't be engaging if you're the one pedaling the bike. Bikes have a freewheel in them. Okay, so when you're pedaling and you stop pedaling, the bike still goes forwards. Automation is that. If you're on this webinar and things have stopped, except the odd little transactional email or whatever, that's where it's wrong. That's where you need to build automation that's triggering on people's engagement, then right time. So it's really important that you're in this webinar relaxed, because there's a machine handling your engagement comms. That's what automation does. So it's all about understanding the fact that if I'm not automating this, 1 in 6 commercial messages gets opened. So I need to densely pack these things. The next thing, email sequences, it's all about building out these triggered journeys and these communications. But I've got a slide here, the email sequences the day after tomorrow. This is a really interesting one. And this is where you're going to go. And this is where we are. And it's immensely powerful. And what it does is it's a next best action triggered sequence. Okay. And what that means is you've done something. I need to now go through a series of trees as in decision trees, and end up at what's the next best thing for you? Well, you're a butcher based in Rotherham that's been looking at these things. It's engaged with us quite a lot recently. Well, actually, the best thing for you is to talk to a human. So I'm going to escalate that to a human. You're a butcher based in Wakefield that's never opened anything, but you've just had a quick look round. Right, well, let's try and re-engage you with this great piece of content that's going to show you about whatever, how to make more money from your butcher's shop. Who knows? But those next best action journeys like this one here are the ones that are firing all day, every day, taking into account people's last email sent, taking into account what they're looking at, taking into account last engagement, and delivering the right message to the right person at the right time. It's really, really important. Optimize your outcome. Final slides of the day. This is important. Optimize your outcome is where we talk about, okay, good, great emails, great content, everything's all good, but I'm sending my traffic to a blog. Right message, right time, right person, landing them on a blog. Right, my website converts at 2%. Let's say 100 people walk into a room, 2 people convert. Not bad. Send that traffic to a blog, 100 people walk into a room, nobody converts. So laser beam focus. If I know what I want you to do, would I be sending that traffic to a blog? If it's just to educate you, fine. I'm accepting of the fact that blogs have a use in marketing. I'm just not accepting that marketeers are necessarily using them in the right way. Landing page though. Okay, landing page. I'm going to target a 15% conversion rate on my landing pages. Okay, awesome. 100 people walk into a room, 15 convert. Now you can further then grow from that. And we experience around about a 35% conversion rate because we then take that segmentation, we understand who you are. And on that landing page, you see stuff that's relevant to your next best action. That's cool. And that gets around about a 35% conversion rate. So that is where you go. And at the moment you're sat potentially at the 2% or 3%. Some of you may be building landing pages, but are you building it for every campaign? You need to. And that's all about building, again, secret formula, boxing it, and then repeating it time and time again. 15 minutes you got for a landing page. The final thing is about measuring success. And I could talk for hours about this particular piece, but I'm just going to say, looking at open rates, click rates, it's still valid. It's not, because it's a consistent skew. A good campaign will be slightly higher. A bad campaign will be slightly lower. But if you're getting a 45%, it's because that's your Apple market share. Yeah, it's not because you're doing amazingly well all of a sudden. Now, this measuring success, I've said before in this webinar, lead score is critical. You've got to apply a lead score for every action somebody does. And platforms like ours obviously do it for you. It's all automated, and we believe in it so much we give it you for free, and we can configure it for you for free. Everybody needs it. But what this is doing is really cool. So it's saying, okay, I've got all my campaigns that are going out, of which there's hundreds now. I'm looking at my open rates, click rates. Of course I am. But it's not my core metric. What I'm doing is I'm looking at the group of people that I'm talking to and how they're changing. That's what's important. And why I've specifically pulled this slide out is the fact that this is an average lead score for a particular segment. And it's seeing here, the blue line is the average. So that's the lead score average for everybody in the segment, plotted at midnight every day. Okay. And what's cool about that is it's not a flat line. That's crazy, isn't it? So every marketeer that's been relying on email open rates and click rates forever and a day has been assuming that your marketing, your audience is constantly just average engagement. So you get a high open rate, well, that's because it was a great email. No, could be because your audience was particularly engaged. You get a bad or a low open rate, rubbish email, poor artwork, poor subject line. No, the audience was just in a slump. And what's the interesting thing about this is if you don't have this and you're not able to put context or a lens on the results that you're getting, you're forever beating up subject lines, copy, content, whatever. This gives you that lens and says, right, oh, actually, the audience is in a slump. So I need to do something particularly powerful to get them back up. To go build up goes like that, slowly. Build and then drop an audience is like that. It's like a stone. So you've got to start, you've got to know where the audience is and constantly be working them. And you have an obligation to keep them laughing, keep them loving you, keep taking out the people that, you know, it's like a comedian on stage, that guy's heckling you, right? Get him out, get him out. We want those that are enjoying it to enjoy it more. And the hecklers are essentially your bad deliverability. That's what, it's not quite the same. I get that. But the point is, if you're watching that like a hawk, you can apply narrative to your campaign results, but you can also keep them in position. You know you've got to do a campaign to these guys. You've got to build some excitement because they're starting to dip and it takes a long time to bring them back up. Keep them there and it's much easier. So if you're sending your emails once every month, you'll constantly go boop, boom on the floor. Every month you're starting from zero. It's really hard work. Imagine a comedian on stage having to tell the cold warm-up jokes all through the gig. That'd be really, really difficult. Okay, so listen, there's so much I could talk to you about, but today that's all I've got time for. You can download the guide, How to 12x Your Marketing. There's a QR code. Please go away, download it. There's loads of other great guides on there. We have lots of different events. Come and see us in person, whatever you want to do, but do keep listening because we're really, really passionate about trying to get marketeers to come on the journey that we're on. So that's about all from me. Ash, are you still there? Have you fallen asleep?
Don't be silly, of course I haven't. Thank you very much, Adam, for your time. We always appreciate you having you on doing these things, and it's very, very valuable content that I'm sure our audience took a lot from today. So thank you.
No problem.
For anyone watching at home or wherever you are, thank you very much for joining us for another one of these. I'll leave Adam's QR code up to grab the guide on the screen now. But if you head to our website, www.marketingSHOWCASE.co.uk, you can check out where all the events are upcoming across the country. You can meet people like Adam and the guys at Force 24 alongside all of our other expert marketing suppliers. So thanks very much again for joining us, and I hope to see you very soon.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.